morning, people, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a first and second impression 2-day wear test of the brand new Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage Foundation. So in case you're new to my channel, I do first impression reviews on my channel here, and I know a lot of people have come out to say that they don't like first impressions because most people don't check back in. They don't update you and tell you how it wore or anything. But what's different about my first impressions is that I always do a wear test and I check back in at the end of the night and show you guys how the products wore. But I'm gonna do you guys one better and do a 2-day wear test where I'm testing out some more variables to really fully comprehend this foundation and what's the best way to wear it. So on the Ulta website, this is $12, but I believe I found this at Walmart for about $10. So always keep in mind that Walmart is the cheapest place to find makeup. If you guys want to see how this foundation applies and how it wears throughout the day for 2 days in a row, then please keep watching. So I've already prepped and primed my skin, and we are ready to put this bad boy to the test because I'm tired of looking like a hot mess. So I picked the shade 110 Porcelain, which is the second to the lightest, and this one seems like it has a pretty good neutral undertone. I mean, I don't think it'll match me perfectly because I've realized lately that I have more of like an olive undertone. I'm going to use a damp sponge. I typically don't like brushes anymore just because I feel like they dry out the finish and they just mattify a little bit too much for me. I do have normal oily skin, but it's pretty balanced and pretty normalized. So here's what I have to cover up. I've had some flare-ups on my forehead. I don't really know why. And then I don't have too much to cover up over here on my cheek area. I just have a little bit of unevenness and discoloration. We're gonna go ahead and start out on this side. By the way, I did use my Nivea post-shave men's balm or whatever it's called to prime my skin. That's just it's a go-to. It's something that always works for me. I have really high hopes for this foundation. This is supposed to be a dupe for the Huda Beauty faux filter foundation. So if I end up liking this, I will do a comparison. If I can actually get my hands on that stupid foundation, it's always sold out. But I will say it's blending out pretty nicely so far. So yeah, this is definitely too light for my skin tone, but I'm hoping it will oxidize a little bit. I've had a really bad problem with oxidation lately and the pumpkin face syndrome. I want to say that I don't feel like this was the best time to bring out this foundation. It's winter and people are struggling with dry skin, and I feel like this is going to be the type of foundation that clings to every dry patch. It's clinging to dry patches that I didn't even know were there. Okay, so it is accentuating every line and every blemish and like dry patch on my forehead. And by the way, it is 3:18 right now, but we're going to use 3:15 as our check-in time. So I've tried to build this side up to a full coverage, like a super high full coverage, about 3 or 4 times. I just can't seem to get it to cover. So I put on a little bit right here. I'm going to let it sit for a second. I'm really just testing how full coverage this can get. So if you're wondering, oh my god, why are you putting on so many layers of foundation? Oh my god, it's going to get so cakey. I always do this just to test the buildability to see if you can build it up to a super full coverage. And this, don't get me wrong, it's a good full coverage foundation. But if you have texture or blemishes that are inflamed or red and that are still kind of active, I don't feel like this is going to be a high full coverage for you. My skin just looks really dry. I will be using a setting spray because setting spray is magical and it helps everything. So I'm gonna go off camera. Once again, 3:15 is our check-in time, so I'll be right back. So number one, we still got a pale issue. This shade does not match me well at all, but this doesn't seem to be oxidizing yet, and usually foundations tend to oxidize within 20 minutes of wear, and we're not really there yet. So as far as setting spray goes, I did use my beloved Holy Grail setting spray. This is the Lala Fox Micro Essential Mist Moisture Water, and that one doesn't really affect the wear of any foundation or any makeup. It just kind of enhances the glow and makes everything look more like unified and meshed together, just more hydrated. And it actually didn't do a whole lot of good for this foundation. I'm like, you guys don't understand how much I wanted to like this foundation, but right now I'm not digging it at all. First of all, it's very, very matte. So if you do have oily skin, you might like this, but just keep in mind I'm really, really picky when it comes to foundations. I have very high standards, and I will test the transfer resistant claim on this because every time I hug Brian or hug anybody, my face makeup ends up right on their shirt or their jacket. But today is only Tuesday, so I do have a few days in between to do some more testing. So what I'm gonna do is do a day 2 test, so like a second impressions. And I'm gonna focus a little bit more on hydrating in the prep and priming stages because I feel like if I use like oils or serums or more hydrating products than what I use today, I feel like this might work a little bit better. And I don't want to label this a dud or a bad product until I've fully tested out, different variables and stuff with it. And that may be the key. But I'm gonna go about my day. I will be back around the 7 or 8 hour mark, and I'll show you guys how this held up. Okay guys, so I'm back for my final check-in of day 1, and you may be surprised to know that it is 12:26 at night. So I made it past the 9-hour mark. Also, please excuse my ratchet eye makeup. Like, it's just non-existent. I wiped it off because it just looked horrible and it made my eyes feel real heavy and just, it didn't look good. I'm very, very disappointed. There are redeeming qualities to it, but for me, the bad outweighs the good. This is a pretty full coverage foundation. I do feel like it's like a low full coverage though, even though it's very highly pigmented. I do feel like I had a harder time building up the areas I need more coverage. This is a very, very matte finish. I mean, this is like a powder matte finish. It has accentuated every pore, every line, every hair, every blemish, and I'm just not really liking how it's sitting on my skin. But I will say on my forehead where I had a little bit of redness and some more texture blemishes, they have faded quite a bit, and I can see a lot of that redness peeking through, and even like little tiny spots on my forehead that weren't really inflamed or, you know, hadn't really broken out to the surface yet. I'm starting to see a lot of blotchiness and redness that I didn't see there before. But one redeeming quality that I feel like this has is that it is very transfer resistant. I've really put this foundation through the ringer, and I haven't really tried to avoid touching my face or laying on my face like I normally try to do. I did do the hug test on Brian, and also where I was laying on a pillow, I tested it out, and there was no transfer on him, on the pillow, on the couch, nothing. So I feel like this is a very transfer resistant foundation. However, where I have been wearing glasses, I've got like nose marks right here from, you know, the little, you know what I'm talking about. So it's not 100% transfer resistant, but obviously it's not going to be, because when you're laying something on your face for an extended period of time, it's going to wear off a little bit. As far as my blush, highlight, and bronzer, that was holding up pretty well up until about a couple of hours ago, and now it's just looking like the blush is still there, but the highlight and the bronzer is kind of faded quite a bit. For this to be a pretty heavy matte full coverage foundation, I expected it to be pretty heavy on the skin, but there were times throughout the night that I actually forgot that I had anything on. I went to like wipe my face or something, and I was like, oh crap, don't touch your face. But when I touch my face, there is no transfer on my hand, so that's awesome. I mean, I'm really gonna press it in there, and there's nothing on my hands. It looks really powdery, really cakey, heavy. It's clinging to dry patches, as I said, and when I look up close, it's clinging to my pores, like it's sinking into the pores. It has just, it's looking really powdery on my forehead and around my T-zone. My chin is worn off quite a bit right here. I do see some redness and splotchiness. Around my nose, I see that. There's not any fading around this area right here, which is usually the first place to go. It's clinging to my mustache. There is quite a bit of product fading away on my nose, like the tip looks like Rudolph. So yeah, I'm done with this. I'm done for the night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hey guys, welcome back to day 2 of the wear test, and I didn't feel myself putting on all the skincare products and the primer and all that stuff just because I feel like that would just waste time. And also, sorry for the fluctuation in the sound in this video. It's been a roller coaster, I know, but I do have a new microphone and I'm playing around with the settings, so hopefully I've gotten it now. And by the way, I should have reevaluated my skin before I put on the foundation, because the foundation just made me realize that I do have dry patches on my skin. I have started seeing it after I wore that foundation. So as far as my skin type, I think right now I'm kind of combination oily dry. So this review is not coming from just a solid oily skin person, so just keep that in mind. I do have dry patches, so if you have dry skin, take note. So I did start out with my rose waters as my toners. This is a very, very hydrating toner, so that was kind of kick-starting it all. And then for moisturizer, I got this little sample size from the Dermatologist yesterday, and she said it was like a miracle product. This is the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Gel Cream for extra dry skin. It does have hyaluronic acid in it. And then I went in with this facial serum that I got from TJ Maxx. This was only like $10. This is the Acure Seriously Glowing Facial Serum. Here's what the box looks like in case you're wondering. You probably can't even see it. But it's made up of a ton of different oils. Sesame seed oil, safflower oil, pumpkin seed oil, borage oil, argan oil, cranberry seed oil, sweet orange oil, olive fruit oil, rosemary oil. I mean, so many different oils in here, so it should hydrate. And then I even took it a step further and went in with a moisturizing primer, and this was probably a redundant step. I probably could have just skipped out on the moisturizer in the beginning, but I didn't. I'm really trying to make this foundation work. This is the First Aid Beauty Coconut Skin Smoothie Priming Moisturizer, and because I'm trying to make this foundation work and I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, I even went back yesterday to the store and picked up a different shade. I picked up the shade 120 Classic Ivory. In most other Maybelline foundations, I do pick up the shade Classic Ivory. It isn't a perfect match. It is a little bit too dark. It's a different undertone than me. So if Classic Ivory doesn't work on its own, I'm just going to try mixing them together. But hopefully you can see how much glow and hydration my skin has, so we're ready to go. I still have pretty much the same spots to cover up, like not as bad, they're not as red. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start with the classic ivory shade and see if I can get this to work on its own. Yeah, it's a little orange. Okay, so I'm gonna mix a little of porcelain in with it to get a good shade. So I'm gonna start off by swiping this onto my skin first and just letting the pigment kind of absorb. By the way, it is 140 right now. So let's start blending this out and see how it goes. And I'm not gonna build it up as much as I did the other day because that was ridiculous. I don't understand how this is such a heavily pigmented product, but it's not super full coverage right off the bat. And don't get me wrong, if you don't have a lot to cover up, this will automatically be a full coverage, like without a doubt. But if you have a little bit more to cover up and if you have a little bit to work with, I feel like you're gonna struggle. Maybe this just isn't a super buildable foundation. Okay, so here's what it looks like up close. It definitely looks better than what it did the other day. My blemishes have also kind of faded a little bit. They're not as bad and as red as they were the other day, so there's not as much to cover up, not as much inflammation or texture. So far, it's better. I do feel like the hydration steps definitely did help this, but I will say I can see a difference in my face and my neck. Probably could have mixed the shades a little bit better. I'm trying to blend it down, but it won't go. This foundation reminds me so much of the Urban Decay All Nighter foundation. It is accentuating the lines around my mouth right here, like my parentheses. But other than that, I don't see any horrible issues. So I will see you guys after I put my makeup on. Okay guys, so I'm back for my full face. I'm gonna try to make this quick, and we are still gonna use, what was it, 140 is our check-in time. As you can see, everything looks a lot more glowy, a lot more not awful. But I will tell you what I did because I did it a lot differently than what I did in day one. So I did use all cream products on my cheeks. I used cream bronzer, cream blush, and cream highlight. And I didn't use a lot of powders today. I did use a setting powder under my eyes and for the rest of my face, but I didn't really touch the cheek area at all. But I did also go over the liquid highlighter that I used today with a powder highlight, but it's so like shiny and blingy that I don't think it really matters as far as that goes. I did use a setting spray. I used the Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray, but where I use cream and liquid products that, you know, have more of a sheen to them, it definitely looks a lot more flattering and it sits better on the skin. I do see that settling around my parentheses still, but as far as my pores and stuff, they don't look as heavy. I don't think it's gonna be transfer resistant anymore. I don't know how long wearing it's gonna be, but we shall see. So I'll see you guys later. Okay guys, I'm back for my final check-in of this 2-day wear test. We are gonna bring this review to a close, finally. It is now 10:30 at night, so I've had this on for 9 hours. Our check-in time was 1:40. I look like a disco ball, and I normally don't ever have this problem. I never get shiny, I never get greasy. So whether it was the facial serum or using all the cream and liquid products and not really, you know, doing a whole lot of setting powder. I did use powder, but I just used a very light amount. And like my face has felt like it hasn't been set all day long. Like I don't see how people do this. This is awful. I did do the hug test and the transfer resistant test. There was a little bit of transfer, but not as much as what I'm used to. So I still think this is a pretty good transfer resistant product, even though I used creams and liquids on top. So I feel like this foundation goes from one extreme side of the spectrum to the next. If I don't do the extra hydrating steps and really take the time to properly moisturize and use cream / liquid, you know, cheap products, then I get cakey and the finish is very powdery and very matte and just not flattering. When I do those steps, I get shiny and I seriously look like I could grease a semi-truck. When I look up close, it doesn't look as bad as what it did on day one. I will say it has settled into pores. It is kind of sinking into them. It has sunken into a few of the fine lines on my face, and pretty much the biggest problem I have is in the T-zone. So basically the only redeeming quality I find in this foundation, as far as like how it wears on my skin, is that it wears really well back in here, like back in my jawline, cheek area, not like anything before here. No, that's a no-go. That sucks. But everything outside of that perimeter looks pretty good. But I don't like this foundation. I really don't. And I don't know who it's going to be good for. I don't know who to recommend this to. So please help me out if you've tried this foundation. What kind of skin do you have? Do you like it? Just please give me your reviews in the comments below, because that really does help me, and it also helps other people, because you can't just rely on one person's review to determine if you want to buy something or not. So that is it for this 2-day wear test. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoy the style of it, and if you appreciate how I did this first impressions, then please give this video a thumbs up and leave your feedback in the comments below. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'm so sorry that it took me 2 days to do this review, but we gotta do what you gotta do. So thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe, follow me on my social media. All the links are below, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Mwah.